Shrestha, a 14-year-old boy, came to see me one day with the history of chronic kidney disease stage 5, means both of his kidneys had failed, leaving him with only hope of kidney transplantation. Unfortunately, I was unable to do the kidney transplant on him because he had no relative to donate the organ. He was preparing for his school leaving exam. He had to do dialysis 2 to 3 times a week, and his health problems used to confine him to hospital beds rather than his classrooms. You can well understand how immensely frustrated this boy was. And I was utterly helpless. This is one of the thousands of stories of the organ failure victims in the country. I was born in Baglung, a remote place of Nepal, from where I had to walk 2 days to reach Pokhara, the nearest city which had the road links. I had my schooling from Baglung when there was no electricity. My dream to become a medical doctor was born when I saw my mother suffering from very high-grade fever for 3 months without diagnosis. There was no doctor in Baglung that time. She had to be taken to Kathmandu for the treatment. When I became a general surgeon, I chose to work in the peripheral hospital outside Kathmandu because of the lack of surgeons there. Can you imagine, during this age, I saw many youths of 20s and 30s dying in front of me because of liver and kidney failures. That time there was no transplantation in the country, and liver transplant was a dream even in South Asia. That was the eye-opener for me, which made me determined to do something in this field. I started exploring the opportunity to get transplant training, and lucky to get it in Birmingham and in Newcastle in the United Kingdom. I was there for 6 years as a transplant registrar and got plenty of opportunities to do the transplants independently. When I was about to complete my training, I decided to come back home to make the transplant program sustainable and affordable. On my return, I stumbled upon a grim reality. A WHO study on 2008 had shown that more than 90% of the kidney failure patients die within few months in a country like Nepal due to inaccessibility and unaffordability to dialysis and transplantation. So I had to work not only as a surgeon, but had to wear different hats in order to make the program sustainable and affordable. I identified 4 areas to improve to actually make the transplantation available and acceptable and affordable. Number 1, to set up the infrastructure. Number 2, to improve the acts and regulations. Number 3, to make the service affordable and acceptable. And number 4, obviously, awareness. So number 1, being a government employee, I joined Bir Hospital, which is the oldest and largest government hospital, trying to start the kidney transplant for more than a decade. There was no dedicated operation theater, no human resources, and no medical equipment dedicated to transplantation. Despite these odds, I could do with my team 99 kidney transplants at a very slow pace of 4 years, but with 99% success. This was a landmark which drew the attention of the government of Nepal to do something in this field. My dream to set up a world-class transplant program got a boost when I got an opportunity responsibility from the government of Nepal to establish a dedicated transplant center in an empty four-story building at the premises of Bhaktapur Hospital, which was lying vacant for more than 5 years. I started with one nephrologist only, gradually built up the team and added the team stronger and bigger. With completion of formalities, different challenges of the procurement processes, and we could complete the legal formality to set up the organization, including making the statute of the organization within 3 months, endorsed by the government, and actually established the Human Organ Transplant Center in April 2013. We established the country's largest dialysis facility within 3 months of the organization establishment. And within 9 months, we actually started the kidney transplant program. Now, the center is doing about 200 kidney transplants every year and 30,000 dialysis every year. We also had to start the transplant lab dedicated to our people. Before we had this lab, we had to send the samples to India, costing huge amount of money and taking reports for more than 2 weeks. Now we have the lab in-house. We can get the reports within 24 hours at half of the price. Means it has been tremendously helpful to our patients. Number 2, acts and regulations. We collaborated with the government. We had the series of meetings with the experts, politicians, and bureaucrats to make our acts and regulations according to the need of our people. The Transplant Act of 1998 had the provision of only live donation with limited relatives, whereas the amendment of the Act, first amendment, was on the expansion of the live donation, which includes 51 relatives now. The second amendment on the Act was inclusion of the pair exchange program. Now, unrelated families also can donate the organs to each other to have the transplantation of their kin. And third and most important incorporation in the amendment was the Brain Death Donor Program. In the West, more than 80% of the transplants are done from the deceased donation. In Nepal, more than 2,500 people die every year in road traffic accident, and of whom 1,000 actually have the brain deaths. Brain deaths means legally and medically death. One brain dead person can provide as many as 8 vital organs to save 8 lives. 1,000 brain deaths in Nepal per year means 8,000 organs. So much resource of organ can be used to make our transplant program self-sufficient in the country. Number 3, accessibility and affordability. Only accessibility and availability is not enough for us. Dialysis costs about $500 a month, and transplantation, kidney transplant, might cost even up to $50,000. And post-transplant medication, the cost is so much beyond means of Nepali citizens. So we joined the forces of the organ failure victims with series of attempts to convince the government, and ultimately government made the dialysis and kidney transplant totally free in this country, which is almost impossible in a country like Nepal. Number 4, awareness. Transplantation and organ donation is a new chapter in our medical field. So many people were not aware of these activities. So with the series of activities like conferences, national and international, workshops, organ donation rallies, camps, and actual door-to-door campaigns, now we have about 2,300 people consented to donate organ after death, including our Prime Minister. This is not enough, but a long way to go. I also like to share the gender biasness in our transplantation. Males are predominantly recipients, 90%, whereas females are donors, 90%, which has been heavily in favor of males. So, what we have achieved, the Transplant Center has done now more than 1,100 kidney transplants with staggering more than 98% success at par with any best centers result in the world. This includes the player exchange program, even 4 transplants a day, and transplant of any kinds of medical, surgical, and immunological risks. The center also started liver transplant program, first time in the history of Nepal, which is considered the most challenging, most complicated, and most difficult service in the medical field. We have also started the Brain Death Donor Program in the country in April 2017. One day I got a call from a hospital saying young guy had brain death. We rushed to hospital to counsel the family, and with series of attempts over hours, we could finally convince. And for the first time in the country, 2 kidneys have been transplanted from the brain death donor. The first recipient in the history is none other than that lucky boy, Milan. So far, we have achieved a tremendous transformation from more than 90% kidney failure patients dying within few months to more than 90% surviving today. This story is a testament to the fact that even in a country like Nepal, miracles are possible. However, it requires persistence, dedication, and unwavering commitment to your responsibilities. If transplantation, brain death donor transplant was not possible in patients like Milan, would not have had the transplantation for many years to come. Brain death donor program is not an overnight business. There is no country which has taken long effort to make it happen. I would like to urge all of you to join this campaign of organ donation. Every one of you can consent to donate organs after death, which will give the gift of life to so many others, and it prevents the life being lost. Before I conclude, I'd like to say that I dream one day when no Nepali citizen with the organ failure will have to die because of the access to transplantation or the cost of it. Before I go, I take the privilege to call upon this lucky young boy who has made the history, Milan. Please, could you please come up? Thank you very much.